What is up, guys? It's Cal, and in this video we're going to be talking about raid-wide buffs that are coming back in Battle for Azeroth. Now, Blizzard mentioned this shortly after BlizzCon, I'm pretty sure, when they originally announced Battle for Azeroth. And they said that classes would be getting class buffs again, which is amazing. And something that's nice about these class buffs is that they're buffs that have been in the game before for the classes that do raid-wide utility, but were later removed with some expansion. So let's go ahead and go through them. All 12 classes have one, so we're going to start off with the Warlock. The Warlocks have an offensive debuff, which benefits the raid. It's Curse of the Elements, and what it does is it costs a certain amount of mana, whatever, but it increases the enemy's attack power by 22, but reduces its armor by 290 for 2 minutes. Cursed enemies will ignore fear effects and refuse to flee from combat. Now, this might sound familiar to some people who've been playing since vanilla, because Curse of Recklessness was a Warlock ability back then. This is actually the exact same thing. It's just renamed to Curse of Elements, which Curse of Elements was a thing for Warlocks, but it does what Curse of Recklessness did a long time ago. And this is an interesting one because it does increase the enemy's damage, but it reduces their armor, and they also can't be feared. So there's that. Moving on to the Druid. Druids get Mark of the Wild. We all remember Mark of the Wild. It's a utility buff for everyone, but what it does is it decreases all of your damage towards beasts, but increases all of your damage towards humanoids by 5%. So that's another one where it's like kind of has a negative to it, but then a positive as well. So you might want to use that on certain fights, like maybe if you're not facing a beast. Next up for Hunters, we have Aspect of the Pack, or better known as Aspect of the Dazed. It's a 1 minute cooldown, so it's not just like a passive aspect that they activate. It does have a cooldown and a 15-yard range. All party and raid members within 15 yards take on the Aspect of the Pack, which increases movement speed by 15%, which is less than before. And anyone hit by an attack while in this aspect will move 70% minus 1% slower for 4 seconds, and only one aspect can be active at a time. So it seems not as good as before. It still slows people down. It's a 1 minute cooldown, so it's not passive, and its movement speed is less than before. It used to be 30%. And now it's 15. Next up for Shamans, they have Totemic Recall, which Shamans probably remember this because totems were something that Shamans used a lot back then. And what Totemic Recall does is it's a 5 minute cooldown, and it places a Stone Skin Totem, Totem of Wrath, Mana Spring Totem, and Grace of Air Totem on the Shaman for 15 seconds. Now, these are all totems that Shamans used to have, but I don't think that they have them anymore. I don't main a Shaman, but I'm just pretty sure. Now, what these totems do is that the Stone Skin Totem increases the raid's armor by a certain amount. The Totem of Wrath increases the raid's crit strike by 3%, I believe. Mana Spring Totem will regenerate everyone's mana, which is nice, obviously, for healers. And then the Grace of Air Totem increases everyone's agility by a certain amount. So it's like 3%, or I think it's 5%, something like that. But this one, definitely a very good cooldown. And all that's for 15 seconds. Next up for Priests, we got Power Word Fortitude, which is coming back. It has a 40-yard range, and what it says is that it infuses the target with Vitality, increasing their Vitality by 10% for 1 hour. So there's that. And then for Rogues, Rogues get Expose Armor, which is another offensive debuff towards the target, which ends up helping the raid. And Expose Armor is something that Rogues have had before, just like all these other abilities, but it's just changed slightly. So it does cost 20 energy, 45-second cooldown, and it reduces the enemy's armor by 50% of the Rogue's highest tertiary stat for 15 seconds. Tertiary stats are things like Leech, Speed, Avoidance, things like that. So whatever your highest one of those is, 50% of that is how much armor the enemy loses for 15 seconds. Then we got Warrior's Battle Shout, which is actually a pretty interesting one. It increases the strength of all mail wearers and agility of all plate wearers in the raid and party within 100 yards by 5% for 1 hour. So this one actually isn't beneficial for leather wearers or cloth wearers at all. It just benefits mail and plate wearers. And then Devotion Aura for Paladins. Party and raid members within 40 yards are bolstered by their devotion. While you're above 1% health, 50% of all damage taken by allies is redirected to you. So that is towards the Paladin. So just to reiterate that one, as long as the Paladin is above 1% health, 50% of all the damage of allies within 40 yards of you is redirected to the Paladin. Then we have Arcane Intellect for Mages, 60-yard range for party and raid members, and it infuses the target with Brilliance, increasing their intellect by 5% for 1 hour, but it can only be used on other mages. So that's a spell that mages have had before, just a slight change to it. Then Vampiric Aura for Death Knights. I'm interested to see how this one actually plays out in raids, but it has a 100-yard range for all party and raid members. It says party and raid members within 100 yards of the Death Knight have their health drained by 1% every 2 seconds, and the Death Knight then generates the drained health. And I believe this one's actually passive because it doesn't have a cooldown there. So I guess passively, maybe it's only during combat, I don't know. And then for monks, we're almost done here. Legacy of the Emperor, an ability that monks have had before, 40-yard range. It says that you extol the words of the last emperor, increasing mastery by 5% for 1 hour. If the target is in your party or raid, all party and raid members will be affected. So as long as you use it on a party or raid member, it will affect everyone in your raid, but it also makes Pandaren tipsy for its 1 hour duration. And then finally, for Demon Hunters, they have Demon Speed. It has a 2-minute cooldown, and the tooltip reads, party and raid members within 60 yards increase the speed of the Demon Hunter and all players named Illidan by 1% per player. So I guess if one Demon Hunter uses it, all party and raid members in the raid, however many there are, so let's say there's 20, that Demon Hunter and all players named Illidan, their speed is increased by 20%. I don't know, we'll see how that one plays out in the alpha. But anyways guys, that is it. Those are all 12 class buffs that are coming back in Battle for Azeroth. It's actually really exciting that they're bringing back class buffs. I've personally missed class buffs, so it's nice to see them again. I don't think all of them are currently on the alpha, or else I would have showed you them all in effect. But anyways guys, if you like this video, you can leave a like on it, sub to the channel for more videos like this, and I'll see you guys in the next video.